Commander Sarah Chen stared through the viewport of the Vengeance as her ship dropped out of hyperspace, its hull still bearing the scars of their last skirmish with Drachnid raiders. The gas giant's swirling storms painted the bridge in shifting shades of purple and blue, but Sarah's attention was fixed on something else, a tiny moon that shouldn't exist according to their star charts. "Confirm those readings," she ordered, her voice carrying the weight of 20 years in the exile fleet. "What exactly are we looking at?" Lieutenant Torres worked his console with practiced efficiency. "Artificial construction, Commander. The entire moon is hollow. And there's something else. The energy signature. It matches old Earth patterns." A heavy silence fell over the bridge. In 3,000 years of searching the stars for traces of their lost homeworld, the exile fleet had found plenty of ruins and remnants, but nothing intact. Nothing still functioning. Sarah's hands tightened on the railing as she fought to keep her voice steady. "Take us in closer. Full scan pattern. I want to know everything about that structure." As the Vengeance glided toward the mysterious moon, Sarah reflected on the stories passed down through generations. Tales of Earth's last stand against the Drachnid Armada, of the desperate measures taken in humanity's final hours. Her own ancestors had been among those who fled in the evacuation ships, carrying with them the burning memory of their world's destruction. "Commander," Torres's voice cracked with excitement, "we're picking up an active signal. It's responding to our ship's ID codes, ancient Earth military protocols." Sarah's heart thundered in her chest. On screen, geometric patterns flashed across the main display, resolving into text in an archaic military cipher. Sarah's eyes widened as the translation appeared. "Defense facility, HFY 7, RESPO Indying. Human vessel DTCT. Ening ITOAT, Inch AACTI. He. ONCQINS. By the ancestors," Sarah whispered. "It's still operational." After all this time, the moon's surface split along invisible seams, panels of dark material sliding apart to reveal a massive docking bay. Lights flickered to life within, creating a beacon in the void. "Ma'am," her tactical officer reported, "we're detecting power signatures consistent with old Earth quantum core technology. Whatever this facility is, it's running on the same power sources that were lost with Earth." Sarah made her decision. "Signal the fleet. Tell them we found something. Then prepare a boarding team. We're going to see exactly what our ancestors left behind." The docking procedure was tense, the Vengeance's modern systems interfacing cautiously with the ancient facility's guidance beams. Sarah led the boarding team herself, her pulse rifle ready as the airlock cycled. The facility's atmosphere was breathable, if stale, environmental systems that had run untouched for millennia. They moved through corridors that could have been pulled from historical archives, their boots echoing on metal floors that hadn't felt human footsteps since before the Exodus. But it was the command center that took Sarah's breath away. A hologram sprang to life as they entered, a figure in an old Earth military uniform, its features composed of shifting blue light. "Welcome, descendants," it said in perfectly preserved English. "We have waited 3,000 years to deliver this message." Sarah stepped forward. What message? The truth about Earth's fall, and the key to humanity's return. The hologram's expression grew solemn. "What you believe about our world's destruction is not the complete story. The Drachnids were merely pawns in a greater game, and this facility contains weapons specifically designed to fight the true enemy." As the hologram spoke, panels around the room hummed to life, revealing rows of sleek devices that seemed to defy modern engineering. But it was the star map that appeared above them that drew everyone's attention. A detailed strategic analysis of Drachnid space, with weaknesses marked that no one had discovered in 3 millennia of conflict. "They believed they had destroyed us utterly," the hologram continued. "That was their first mistake. This facility is one of 7, scattered across the galaxy in preparation for this moment. when humanity was ready to reclaim what was taken from us. Sarah's hand shook as she reached out to touch the star map, her fingers passing through the light. How do we know this information is still valid after so long? Because the enemy has not changed their tactics in 50,000 years of conquest, the hologram replied. They believe themselves perfect, undefeatable, and that will be their undoing. Warning klaxons suddenly blared through the facility. On the tactical displays, multiple ships dropped out of hyperspace, Drachnid warships responding to some silent alarm. It would appear, the hologram said calmly, that you will have a chance to test these weapons sooner than expected. The facility's defense systems are at your disposal, Commander Chen. Show our old enemy that humanity's will to fight has only grown stronger in exile. Sarah's jaw set with determination as she turned to her crew. Battle stations. Let's show them exactly what humanity has learned in 3,000 years of preparation. The ancient facility thrummed with awakening power, and Sarah Chen allowed herself a fierce smile. The real war for humanity's future was about to begin. The Drachnid ships never stood a chance. Sarah watched in awe as weapon systems, 3 millennia old, carved through enemy shields like they weren't there. Beams of coherent light unlike anything in modern arsenals reduced battle cruisers to expanding clouds of debris. In less than 10 minutes, the entire enemy squadron was destroyed. Status report, Sarah commanded, still processing what she'd just witnessed. All enemy vessels neutralized, Torres reported. Our power consumption was minimal. Commander, these weapons are beyond anything we've ever seen. The energy signatures don't even register on our standard scales. The hologram's blue light pulsed with what Sarah could have sworn was satisfaction. This is merely a fraction of what humanity achieved before the fall. There is much more to show you. Deep in the facility's archives, Sarah and her team discovered the truth their ancestors had hidden away. Earth hadn't just been a cradle of humanity. It had been the site of technological achievements that made their current capabilities look primitive by comparison. Quantum mechanics harnessed at the macro scale, gravity manipulation, energy weapons that could target specific molecular bonds. But why hide all this? Sarah asked the hologram. Why not send this technology with the evacuation ships? Because humanity wasn't ready, a new voice answered. Sarah spun around, weapon raised, to find a woman standing in a doorway that hadn't been there moments before. She wore a uniform similar to the holograms, but she was very much flesh and blood. I am Director Helena Drake of the Phoenix Initiative, the woman said, stepping forward. Or rather, I'm her descendant. We've been waiting a long time for someone to find this place. Sarah's mind raced. The Phoenix Initiative? That's not in any of our histories. Helena's smile was sad. No, it wouldn't be. We were Earth's final contingency plan. While the evacuation ships fled with our technology deliberately reduced to prevent detection, we went into hiding, preserving humanity's greatest achievements until the time was right to reclaim them. Over the next hours, Helena led them through hidden chambers that made the facility's outer sections look primitive by comparison. She showed them laboratories where nanotechnology far beyond current understanding was developed, hangars containing ships that could manipulate space-time itself, and archives detailing the true nature of their ancient enemy. The Drachnids are just foot soldiers, Helena explained, bringing up complex tactical displays. They serve beings we called the Architects, a species so ancient they'd mastered interstellar travel before Earth's first mammals evolved. They saw humanity's potential as a threat, so they ordered our destruction. But they failed, Sarah said, beginning to understand. These facilities, your people, you're the proof of that failure. More than that, Helena replied. We're the key to humanity's revenge. But we need the exile fleet's help. You've spent 3,000 years surviving, adapting, becoming stronger. We have the technology, but you have the numbers and the experience of constant warfare. Sarah studied the tactical displays, noting how the Architect's sphere of influence encompassed nearly a third of the galaxy. Even with your advanced technology, we'd be outnumbered thousands to one. Helena's eyes gleamed. Numbers don't matter when you can rewrite the laws of physics. Let me show you our greatest achievement, what we call the Infinity Engine. She led them to a vast chamber at the facility's heart. At its center floated a sphere of what looked like liquid light, contained within fields of pure force. This, Helena said with pride, is what the architects feared most. It's why they struck when they did, before we could fully deploy it. The Infinity Engine doesn't just ignore the laws of physics, it allows us to locally redefine them. Imagine being able to change the speed of light in a targeted area, or alter the strong nuclear force within an enemy ship. Sarah stared at the sphere in wonder. How many of these do you have? 7. One in each hidden facility. But we need the Exile fleet to help us coordinate their use, to strike at multiple targets simultaneously. The architects won't expect an attack on this scale. They believe they destroyed this technology 3,000 years ago. Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared again. But this time, the tactical displays showed something very different. Massive ships, far larger than any Drachnid vessel, dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Architect vessels, Helena said grimly. They must have detected the energy signatures from our defense systems. We're about to have company. Sarah turned to her crew. Get back to the Vengeance. Signal the fleet. We need everything they can spare. She faced Helena. How quickly can you get these weapons online? Helena was already moving to control stations, her fingers flying over ancient interfaces. The defense grid is ready. But Sarah, if we commit to this fight, there's no going back. This will be the beginning of a war unlike anything humanity has seen since Earth's fall. Sarah thought of the generations of her people who had lived and died in exile, never losing hope of someday avenging their lost homeworld. Good, she said. It's about time we showed them what humanity can really do. As the first architect ships entered weapons range, Sarah Chen and Helena Drake stood side by side. The legacy of Earth's past and the strength of its exile combined. The real war for humanity's future was about to begin, and this time, they had the power to win it. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. The architect vessels, each the size of a small moon, brought weapons to bear that could shatter planets. But they found themselves facing something they hadn't encountered in 3 millennia. Humanity's full technological might. Infinity Engine at full power, Helena called out, her hands dancing across the ancient controls, establishing reality distortion fields around the primary targets. Sarah watched in awe as spheres of warped space enveloped the massive architect ships. Within these bubbles, the laws of physics themselves became malleable. Enemy weapons that could have vaporized continents fizzled harmlessly, their underlying principles no longer valid in locally altered spacetime. Vengeance, initiate attack pattern Delta, Sarah commanded through her neural link. Her ship, now integrated with the facility's advanced systems, moved with impossible grace. Weapons that combined 3,000 years of exile innovation with recovered Earth technology struck with devastating precision. The first architect vessel crumpled inward as the strong nuclear force within its hull was temporarily increased, causing atoms themselves to collapse. The second found itself trapped in a bubble where the speed of light had been reduced to walking pace, its energy weapons rendered useless. But the architects hadn't survived for millions of years by being unprepared. Their remaining ships began adapting, their hulls shifting like liquid metal as they evolved countermeasures. They're attempting to match our reality distortion frequencies, Helena reported, her voice tense, just like they did during Earth's fall. But this time, she smiled fiercely. This time, we're ready for it. She activated a sequence that made the facility's quantum cores pulse with power. The Infinity Engine's sphere of liquid light began spinning faster, throwing off arcs of energy that defied description. Initiating Protocol Phoenix, Helena announced, "All units, prepare for temporal shock." Sarah felt reality twist around them as the Infinity Engine reached full power. The tactical displays showed something impossible. Time itself was flowing at different rates throughout the battlefield, creating a cascade of causality that the architect ships couldn't predict or counter. Now, Helena commanded, hit them while they're trying to process multiple time streams. The combined fleet struck as one. Ships of the Exile fleet, their weapons enhanced by recovered Earth technology, fired in perfect synchronization with the facility's defense systems. Space itself seemed to shatter around the architect vessels as attacks landed from what, to them, seemed like multiple points in time simultaneously. One by one, the massive ships began to fall. Their adaptive hulls couldn't cope with attacks that violated causality itself. Their weapons, designed to operate within normal physics, proved useless against targets that could shift between different temporal states. But victory came with a price. The strain of manipulating reality at this scale was taking its toll on the facility's systems. Alarms blared as power conduits overloaded and containment fields began to fluctuate. The Infinity engine can't maintain this level of temporal manipulation much longer, Helena warned, fighting with the controls. We need to end this now. Sarah made a quick decision. All ships, concentrate fire on their flagship. Everything we have. All at once. Helena, can you give us one final reality shift? Helena's hands flew across the console, charging for a maximum distortion. But Sarah, at this power level, we risk tearing a permanent hole in space-time. Better that than letting them report our capabilities back to their masters. Sarah opened a channel to all ships. This is Commander Chen. In 3,000 years of exile, we never forgot what was taken from us. Now we show them why humanity was worth fearing. All units, prepare to fire on my mark. The Infinity engine's sphere of light had become a raging maelstrom of energy, tendrils of power arcing across the chamber. Helena's fingers danced across controls that were already starting to melt from the strain. Reality distortion at maximum. Temporal field established. We have 10 seconds before total system failure. Sarah took a deep breath. All units, fire. The combined firepower of humanity's past and present struck as one. The Architect flagship, caught in a bubble where multiple versions of time existed simultaneously, had no defense against weapons that hit it from what it perceived as both the past and future at once. Its supposedly invincible hull cracked like an egg, temporal energies tearing it apart at the quantum level. The explosion, when it came, rippled across multiple realities. The remaining Architect ships, their command structure shattered, began to retreat in disarray. They had come expecting to find remnants of a defeated race. Instead, they had faced humanity at its full potential. As the energy readings finally began to stabilize, Sarah turned to Helena. How bad is the damage? Helena was already assessing systems. The Infinity engine will need time to recover, but the core technology is intact. More importantly, she brought up long-range scans. We've confirmed that no Architect ships escaped to transmit data about what they encountered. As far as their empire knows, this was just another skirmish with primitive humans. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Which means we can do it again. At the other facilities. Yes, Helena's eyes gleamed with possibility. But first, we need to integrate your fleet's ships with our technology properly. What we did today was improvised. Imagine what we can achieve with proper preparation. As repair crews began assessing the damage and medical teams treated the wounded, Sarah stared out at the battlefield. The debris of Architect ships, ships that had been considered invincible just hours ago, drifted silently in the void. Send word to the fleet, she ordered. Tell them we found more than just ancient weapons. We found a way to take the fight to the enemy. And this time, we're not just fighting for revenge. She turned to Helena, seeing her own determination mirrored in the other woman's eyes. We're fighting to take back everything they stole from us. Starting today, humanity stops running. The war to reclaim their destiny had begun, and the Architects were about to learn that 3,000 years of evolution in exile had made humanity more dangerous than they could have possibly imagined. Word of humanity's victory spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The destruction of architect warships, something not achieved by any civilization in recorded history, sent shockwaves through the interstellar community. In the weeks that followed, the hidden facility became a hub of feverish activity as the Exile fleet integrated ancient Earth technology with their own innovations. Sarah stood in the facility's main hangar, watching as engineers swarmed over the Vengeance. Her ship's hull now gleamed with patterns of quantum circuitry, its weapons systems rebuilt with technology that had been lost for millennia. The integration is proceeding faster than expected, Helena said, joining her at the observation window. Your engineers are remarkably adaptable. 3,000 years of survival will do that, Sarah replied. When you're constantly outgunned and outnumbered, you learn to make the most of any advantage. She turned to face Helena. Have you decoded more of the architect communications we intercepted? Helena's expression darkened. Yes. They're mobilizing their entire fleet. The loss of their ships here has triggered exactly the response we hoped for. They're emerging from their hidden strongholds, gathering for a massive counterattack. Perfect. Sarah smiled grimly. Which means they're exposing themselves. How are the other facilities responding? All 6 have been activated and are preparing for synchronized deployment of their Infinity engines. But Sarah, Helena hesitated. We've detected something else. The architects aren't just gathering their military forces. They're awakening something they call the World Breaker. Before Sarah could respond, a comm channel opened. Lieutenant Torres's voice was urgent. Commander, you need to see this. We're picking up transmissions from multiple sectors. Ships dropping out of hyperspace at coordinates we've never seen used before. Sarah and Helena rushed to the command center. The tactical display showed dozens of new signatures appearing across the galaxy map. But these weren't architect vessels. They're refugees, Helena said softly. Survivors from other worlds the architects destroyed. They must have detected the quantum signatures from our battle and recognized them. The first diplomatic contact came from a species called the Nexeri, beings of crystalline energy who had hidden their remnants in the heart of a dying star for 10,000 years. Then came the Vrax, a warrior race who had fought the architects to near extinction. More followed. Dozens of species, each with their own story of survival against the ancient enemy. They want to join us, Torres reported, scanning the incoming transmissions. They're offering their own technologies, their own innovations developed in exile. The Nexeri apparently mastered zero-point energy manipulation, and the Vrax have developed biological enhancements that let them process information at quantum speeds. Sarah felt the weight of the moment. This was no longer just humanity's fight for revenge. It was becoming something larger, a gathering storm of all those who had suffered under architect dominion. Bring their representatives here, she ordered. Helena, can we adapt the Infinity engine technology to work with their ships? Helena was already running simulations. Better than that, some of their advances could actually enhance our reality manipulation capabilities. The Nexeri's zero-point technology, combined with our temporal distortion fields, her eyes widened at the calculations, we could potentially affect space-time on a galactic scale. The next days were a blur of diplomatic meetings and technological exchange. Species that had been scattered and isolated for millennia came together, each bringing pieces of a puzzle they hadn't known they were all solving. The hangar bay became a showcase of impossible ships, Vrax battlecruisers with living hull material that could process tactical data, Nexeri vessels that existed partially in higher dimensions, and dozens more. But it was the information they brought that proved most valuable. Each species had been watching the architects from hiding, gathering intelligence. Together, they began to form a complete picture of the enemy's true nature and capabilities. They're not just ancient, Helena explained during a strategic briefing. They're desperate. Every scrap of data confirms it. They'd been systematically destroying any civilization that shows signs of reaching their level of development. Not out of malice, but fear. Fear of what? Sarah asked. though she suspected she knew the answer. Of being replaced. Their technology, their mastery of physics, it's all copied from an even older civilization, one that vanished millions of years ago. They're terrified of another species surpassing them because deep down, they know their position is built on stolen knowledge they don't fully understand. The tactical implications were staggering. The architects' greatest weakness was their rigid adherence to established patterns, their inability to truly innovate. In contrast, the allied species gathering at the facility had spent millennia adapting, evolving, finding new ways to survive. Sarah stood before the assembled representatives of a dozen exile species, feeling the weight of history. "We've all lost our homes to the architects," she began. "We've all spent generations hiding, surviving, waiting for a chance to strike back. Apart, we were vulnerable. Together," she gestured to the fleet of hybrid ships gathering outside the facility. "Together, we're about to show them what real evolution looks like." A signal from deep space interrupted her speech, a quantum pulse that made the facility's sensors scream. The tactical display showed something massive emerging from slip space, larger than any ship ever recorded. "The World Breaker," Helena whispered. "They're deploying it ahead of schedule." Sarah's jaw set with determination. "Good. That means they're scared." She opened a channel to all ships. "Battle stations. The enemy is coming to us, just as we planned. Now we show them what happens when the children of dead worlds unite." The rising storm was about to break, and the galaxy would never be the same. The World Breaker lived up to its name. As it emerged fully from slip space, its true scale became apparent. A construct larger than most moons, it tall a maze of geometric patterns that hurt the eye to look at. Behind it came the Architect Armada, thousands of ships strong, their formation a perfect demonstration of their rigid, unchanging nature. "Now," Sarah ordered, "execute Operation Phoenix." All 7 Infinity engines activated simultaneously, their power amplified by Nexera technology. Reality rippled as temporal distortion fields expanded, not just affecting small areas, but entire regions of space. The World Breaker's beam hit a patch of space where causality itself had been rewritten, its entropy effect reversing back upon itself. "All ships, commence attack pattern Omega," Sarah commanded. "Show them what evolution really means." The Allied fleet moved as one, but not with the rigid precision of the architects. Each ship, each species, brought their own unique approach to the battle. Vrax cruisers accelerated to impossible speeds, their living hulls processing combat data faster than any computer. Nexeri vessels phased between dimensions, striking from angles that shouldn't exist. And humanity's ships, led by the Vengeance, demonstrated 3,000 years of tactical evolution. The Architect Armada's perfect formation began to break down as it faced attacks that defied their understanding of physics. Ships that had relied on copied technology for millions of years found themselves unable to adapt to weapons and defenses born from genuine innovation. But the World Breaker was another matter entirely. Even as its support fleet crumbled, the massive construct continued its advance, shrugging off attacks that could have destroyed planets. "Helena," Sarah called out as the Vengeance shuddered under a near miss. "What am I looking at? How is it still functioning?" Helena's hands flew across her console, analyzing readings. It's not just a weapon. The geometric patterns on its hull, they're not decorative. They're mathematical formulae written into reality itself. The World Breaker isn't just using physics, it's enforcing it, maintaining the architect's version of natural law. Sarah's mind raced. So it's not just a weapon against other species. It's how they've maintained their power for millions of years, Helena finished, by literally enforcing the physical laws they understand, preventing the universe from evolving beyond their control. A plan formed in Sarah's mind. Can we use that against them? If the Infinity engines aren't just changing local physics, but actually rewriting them. Helena's eyes widened as she followed the thought. A cascade effect. If we could get all 7 engines firing at full power, synchronized with the Nexari zero-point field. She ran the calculations, then paled. But the energy requirements would burn out every quantum core we have. We'd be defenseless. Better that than letting them maintain control. Sarah opened a channel to all ships. All forces, fall back to minimum safe distance. Infinity facilities, prepare for maximum power burst. Engineering, divert all power to the quantum cores. The world breakers seemed to sense their plan. Its attack intensified, entropy beams carving paths of nothingness through space. But the Allied fleet held firm, each ship playing its part in the intricate dance of survival their species had perfected over millennia of hiding. Infinity network at full power, Helena reported. Nexari field generators online. Vrax processors calculating optimal firing solution. She looked up at Sarah. We're ready. But Sarah, at this level of power, we're not just rewriting local physics. This could change the fundamental laws of the galaxy itself. Sarah thought of Earth, of all the worlds the architects had destroyed in their desperate attempt to maintain control. Maybe it's time for some new laws. Execute. 7 Infinity engines fired as one, their power amplified by Nexari technology and guided by Vrax computational speeds. The temporal distortion field that emerged wasn't local or temporary. It expanded outward at faster than light speed, a wave of change that rewrote the very fabric of reality. The world breaker's formulae-encoded hull began to crack as its fundamental assumptions about physics ceased to be true. The architect fleet, built on stolen technology they had never truly understood, started to break apart as the underlying principles of their operation shifted. It's working, Helena exclaimed. The new physical laws are propagating throughout the sector. The architect ships, they can't adapt. The world breaker, that massive monument to the architect's fear of change, began to collapse in on itself. Its attempt to enforce old laws of physics failed as new ones took hold. Laws born from the combined understanding of species who had spent millennia evolving and adapting. As the wave of change swept through the galaxy, the Allied fleet watched in awe. Ships that had hidden in darkness now flew proudly under stars that shone with slightly different laws of physics, laws that had evolved, just as life itself evolved. The world breaker's formulae-encoded hull began to crack as its fundamental assumptions about physics ceased to be true. The architect fleet, built on stolen technology they had never truly understood, started to break apart as the underlying principles of their operation shifted. It's working, Helena exclaimed. The new physical laws are propagating throughout the sector. The architect ships, they can't adapt. The world breaker, that massive monument to the architect's fear of change, began to collapse in on itself. Its attempt to enforce old laws of physics failed as new ones took hold, laws born from the combined understanding of species who had spent millennia evolving and adapting. As the wave of change swept through the galaxy, the Allied fleet watched in awe. Ships that had hidden in darkness now flew proudly under stars that shone with slightly different laws of physics, laws that had evolved, just as life itself evolved. The last architect ships fled in disarray, their perfect formation shattered, their copied technology failing in a universe that no longer operated according to their rigid understanding. Sarah stood on the Vengeance's bridge, watching the stars shine with new light. Send word to all exile fleets, she commanded. Tell them it's time to come home. All of us. The age of hiding is over. Helena joined her at the viewport. What now? We've changed the fundamental laws of the galaxy. Everything will be different. Sarah smiled. Good. That's what evolution is all about. And this time, we'll face it together, not as exiles or survivors, but as architects of our own destiny. The stars continue to shine, their light following new laws born from the combined will of those who had refused to accept extinction. The galaxy was changing, evolving, becoming something new, just as it always should have been.